getting things started. All right, I think we're live. Tell me in the chat if you're seeing me. I would love to say hello. I've been trying to chat with people, gosh, for a good half hour now. We've been chatting in the chat window, so I'd love to know where you are watching from. It looks like we're live, so it looks like, tell me audio sounds good. I would love to know that everything is working well. So before we get started, I just want to say hello to a few people, and this gives us an opportunity also to kind of, well, say hello, but also to make sure that everything is working properly. Linda says everything is looking good. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thank you, Linda. We've got people tuning in from all over. It is so much fun. I love doing these things because, it's the technology, first of all, is just incredible. Here, I'll give you a behind the scenes look at what all the little different details that I've got going on. And so, yeah, well, I just get a kick out of it. It's funny. First of all, if this is your first time here, my name is Connie Knox. I am a lifelong genealogist here to help you go further, faster, and factually with your family history research. And you know what? Today we are going to be talking about the 10 research sins that family historians make. And so before we jump into that, though, we're just going to let a few moments go by to get everybody in and say hello to some folks and throw some hellos on the screen. And let's see, who else do we have? Hang on one second. Pittsburgh is in the house. Kansas City is in the house. We've got people from all over. We even have people from Canada, I saw. We've got Indiana in the house. Let's see. Oh, wow. Here's one from Israel. Welcome. I appreciate you tuning in. And we've got Washington and Nebraska. And so, yeah, it's always fun to learn where people are watching from. We've got Southern California. Thank you. I appreciate it. You guys are so sweet. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to try and hopefully stay on subject. We'll see how it goes. You got to love the live streams, though, because I personally, here's the story. I personally love doing live streams, but they're just not quite fast paced enough sometimes. So, I just get a kick out of them. So here's a personal little story. When I was in broadcasting for like TV broadcasting for like 40 years. And one of the things, I started at a PBS station, shout out to KOCE TV in Southern California. I used to work there, and I wanted to become a technical director, right? And so here's my little story. All of the little buttons, a technical director, basically what a technical director does in television is they're the one who pushes the buttons, right? And so the director will say, hey, camera one, ready, camera one, take one, ready, camera two, take two. And so that's what the technical director does, is he's taking the directions from the director. And so I always wanted to be a technical director. So this whole thing with the technology, I just get all excited about it. So sorry to get off subject, but yeah. Anyway, so today we're going to be talking about the 10 research 10 research sins that family historians make. And we're going to do that here in just a moment. But I just want to say hello to a few more people. Hi, Linda from Kentucky. We've got Portland in the house. We've got Alabama. And we've got Wichita, Kansas. We got Maryland. We got High Point, North Carolina. This is awesome. All right, so unless there's any major technical issues that you guys need to alert me to, we are good to go. I'm just double checking a couple things, make sure everything's happy. And, oh, all right. So this is one I have to put up. London, England. Welcome. We got Colorado is in the house. Welcome, welcome. All right. Let's get into it. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to talk about the 10 research sins that family historians make. Some of this is going to be a no-brainer for you, and some of it may be, I don't know, first time seeing it. So who knows? So please be mindful that I cannot really watch the chat too much, although I do invite your comments during the show. I will try and pay attention to them while I'm presenting. So the first sin that I talk about here, really, I should have saved this for last, because to me it's like the number one thing that people do that they probably shouldn't do. And a lot of these screenshots are from Ancestry, so just be mindful of that. And oh, by the way, make sure you subscribe. I am trying to get to 100,000 subscribers. I am at, I don't know, 82.6 thousand subscribers right now. So I would love it if you would subscribe. I'd appreciate it. Thank you very much. All right. So copying from other people's trees. This is one of those things that we probably should not be doing, or at least let's kind of set some ground rules maybe. Let's think about what we're doing before we do it. So it's pretty easy to do when you're in the hints area and you see these Ancestry member trees and you go, oh, let's review that. Oh, they must be right because 10 people said it was right. So let's import that person. Okay, let's stop and think about what we're doing before we import that stuff. We want to look at the records. We want to verify that stuff. And for some of you who are watching, I know you're in the academy. And okay, I just have to throw one of these up here. Hang on one second. Teresa, where are you? Teresa. Thank you, Teresa, for your support. I appreciate it. New member of the YouTube channel. I do appreciate it. Okay, so when we're copying from other people's trees, we need to verify that information, right? We need to look at those sources to make sure. And if we're still not sure, okay, there's some things we can do, but let's talk about this. So another area that people will import from automatically without really paying attention is in through lines. And there's, again, you want to kind of verify this stuff with sources. And here, you know, we've got this dashed box, which means this person is not in our tree. And when we hit that evaluate button, a lot of times we'll get this side panel that pops up. And if we look closely at it, like no records. So do we really want to import that? So we got to be thinking about this. If this is a person that is right above your DNA match, it's probably their parent, right? It should be theoretically. And so they probably have personal knowledge that that person is, in fact, part of the line, part of the through line. So tell me in the chat if you're guilty of importing people either from the hints on the profile or in through lines without doing any verification. No judgment here. I'm just trying to point it out that, hey, you know, maybe we should, you know, pay attention to that kind of stuff. I do just want to say hello to Australia. It's got to be, I don't know, what is that, 12 hours earlier, 10 hours earlier? Welcome from Australia. Appreciate you being here. Okay, so let's move on. My mouse is very sensitive, so it went kind of crazy. So here's a couple things you can do. When you're copying from other people's trees and it doesn't have any sources, or you maybe don't, you're not sure if this person, but you want to capture them. Okay, capture them, but let's make sure that we're tagging them with an unverified tag. Now, I don't think you can do this on Family Search, so this is really kind of a trick on Ancestry. So what you do is you click that pencil icon, and then it opens up this side panel, and then you can click the unverified, and it turns green, and it'll show up over here. You can also create those custom tags. So if you're not familiar with doing the tags, do this, because think about it for a moment. This not only helps you when you come back to this ancestor and you're doing research again, it helps other people who are visiting your tree as well. So yeah, I see some comments in there. One person says, hang on, let me send this one up. 40 years of research has taught me to never save from another tree. Did it once years ago, never again. Thanks for your comment. I appreciate it. Yeah, so I mean, I totally get it. I get that maybe this is like, oh, I don't want to lose this person. What do I do? Do I put this person in my notes? Do I put a hyperlink in my notes? Maybe. You could do that. You could copy the hyperlink and put it into your web links. We'll talk about that in a minute. But at least mark them as unverified so that when you are doing your research, you come back here and you go, oh, wow, I haven't proven this. There are no sources here. Let me work on this. So let's, just be thinking about that. Okay, number 2 is not creating a research question or a research plan. And I mention this because a lot of people like to run around the tree. I call it raking the leaves on the tree, and they got to get all those leaves cleaned up, so then they must have everything, and that is not the case, right? So if you are raking the leaves, in my opinion, you're wasting your time. Think about what it is that you want to do, and what it is you want to know about a specific person. And then write a research question about that person. What is it you want to know? That's your research questions. That simple. Okay, then go take a look at everything you have for that person, right? And then outline it, right? Here's what I've got, and here's what I don't have, right? And start making, kind of a list of what you could go for. What are you missing? Burial information? Okay, let's think about where that burial information might be. Well, it could be at the cemetery. It could be on Find a Grave. It could be Billion Graves. It could be cemetery census. There's just a lot of places that you can start thinking about, where am I going to find this burial information for my ancestor? And so, yeah, I'm trying to keep an eye on the chat at the same time. But anyway, so that is my second one. And so I'm just suggesting that you write it down. It takes about 30 seconds to do this whole process. Write your research question down and then kind of evaluate. It might take a couple minutes to evaluate what you have and what you don't have. All right, being unorganized, I call, is the sin number 3. And if this looks like your office, I'm sorry, but we need to kind of at least get organized for the one person that we wrote that research question for. So we may need to pull out these documents, put it in the chat if your office kind of looks like this. I know a lot of people love, to stack up those papers, and there's like method to the madness. But to me, I can't work that way. I am like very organized and very analytical in the way I do my research. There's a process for everything to me. And so if you at least don't get overwhelmed by cleaning up the office, but if you at least get the paperwork out that applies to that one ancestor that you're working on, that one research question, right? Then we at least have it organized. Maybe scan it, use your cell phone to scan it if you have to, and get it into a digital file, and then, file it properly. So again, the solution to this problem is to start with one ancestor at a time, focus on one person, and do this whole process from top to bottom for that one person, and then rinse and repeat, right? You can do this on the next ancestor and the next ancestor. So the next one I have is not knowing where to find the records. And this is surprising to me that a lot of people don't know where to find these records. And the easy answer is to go to Family Search Wiki. And so if you're on the Family Search Wiki, you can, I'm going to pull this up full screen so you can see it. So all you need to do is drill into whatever location you are researching, and then it will pull up, like in this case, I may have drilled into North America, then the United States, and then New Jersey. You will get a screen that looks a little bit something like this. You can then go straight to the online records. I don't recommend, I actually never use this button, but you could. I come over here to the right-hand side and I use the filters. And the reason why I do this is because I'm trying to stay focused on my research question. So if that research question said I'm looking for burial information, I don't want to be looking at, I don't want all that minutia, right? I want to get to the answer that I am looking for. So what I will do is I maybe go to the cemeteries. I might drill into the county. I might, so if you drill in, start with state level. Here's my recommendation. Start at the state level, or depending on what country you're in, province, district, whatever, but try and stay at a higher level because, like, for example, in the United States, if we stay at the state level, then you're going to get state level records. And if you're not at the state level, then you could be missing things like census records and that kind of stuff. So if you drill in, kind of do both. Do the state level, then drill into the county level and see what records are there. At least that way, when you do this, you start to discover what records are available and what aren't. Now, the wiki is constantly being updated. Is it perfect? No, nothing is perfect, but this is probably the easiest way to find out what records, with hyperlinks, by the way, what records are available, and it'll drill you right to it, whether it's on Family Search or not. They'll tell you if it's on Ancestry, they'll tell you if it's on MyHeritage, Find My Past, wherever these records are, they're going to give you a hyperlink right to it. If it's on both, like Family Search and Ancestry, you'll notice Family Search to be on top. And, if you see a Family Search link, I would go there first because Family Search is free, right? So if you're not on Family Search, you should be. All right. Okay. Not investigating family lore. This is tip number 5. So number 5 is think about the family lore that you've heard about. Now, I see a lot of professional genealogists say, oh, don't pay attention to family lore. And I don't know that I agree with that because in my case, family lore came true. I actually did the research top to bottom. And the process is to do the research, to document what you found, to source the documents you found, to come to a conclusion, and to write your conclusion. And so the thing is, here's the trick. That's the professional way of doing things. This comes from the Board for Certification of Genealogists. This is one of their top tips. And so this process is what we always follow when we're doing proper research. So if you think about this for a moment, if you are stuck, if you are kind of have this one problem that you're trying to solve for, going through this process, and we're going to talk more about this process here in a minute, but going through the process of really, digging your heels in and getting your fingers into the pie of this research process will help you find things you never noticed before. So one of the reasons why I say this is one of the sins that family historians make is because sometimes the family lore is true, sometimes it's not. But let's prove or disprove it, right? We try and work just as hard to disprove as we do to prove. And by the way, with few exceptions, I wouldn't totally rely on DNA to do this. Anytime you're using DNA, it has to be in combination with traditional records as well. All right, now, moving on. Let me drop the ticker here for you. All right, so number 6 is not researching the siblings. This is kind of interesting because I actually recently had a question from one of the viewers asking, how far and wide do I go? And I actually asked that question of several people at Roots Tech this year, and these were all professional genealogists, and pretty much the general consensus was you go as wide as you need to go. But Here's what I'm telling you with regard to your direct line ancestors is to make sure that you are opening up the siblings and you are researching all of the siblings. The reason why I tell you this is because it is the other children in the family, the siblings, that may have more information than what you find in your ancestor. This happens to be my second great grandfather, came from Denmark. And why did he come from Denmark? Well, he is the youngest of all these kids, and he, the Danish tradition was to give the family farm to the eldest son. So that means Hans here probably inherited the family farm. Karen, I'm going to guess, probably inherited the family Bible or some of the records because she's the eldest of the siblings. So it could be that Karen's descendants have a lot of the family history. Maybe, maybe not. But we don't know if we don't research it, right? So that's one of the things that I'm always professing is to at least go to the sibling level, and if you're doing DNA research, of course, you would then do the descendancy research on down the line. Okay. Before we move on, after ages and ages, I'm looking at siblings of ancestors. Good job. Nicely done. Okay, number 7 is not researching the fan club. Now, we talked about the family and the family unit here a moment ago. Now we're talking about the friends, associates, and neighbors. Thanks to Elizabeth Shown Mills for coining that little acronym. We got to love it, though, because it's in the friends, associates, and neighbors that helps build the community around the ancestors that we're researching. And I can't tell you how many times I have discovered stuff in friends and neighbors, maybe not so much associates, but sometimes. But a lot of times it's these people that help us tie the records together. If we're looking at a record and we're going, I'm not sure this is my guy, look at the other people in the record. And then go research the other people in the record and see if they show up in other documents. Maybe if you're looking, an easy example is census records. So if you're looking at census records and you look at the neighbors, and then you go look at another census record 10 years later and the same neighbors are there, you got the right person. You got the same person at least. So as you're working backwards, you want to be doing that. Now, that doesn't work perfectly if people are, if people are moving around, then you might have a little bit of a different situation. But, it could be people traveled in groups too. So think about that. With passenger lists, look at all the people that are around your ancestor on a passenger list, because they could be other family members. They could be other people. We'll talk a little bit more about that here in just a second. All right, so here's my ancestor again. This is Christopher Madsen from Denmark. And in doing research for him, I kept coming up with him and his son, actually. I kept coming up with records for this guy named Chris Tiegner. And I'm like, who is this guy? I better start paying attention because he shows up in a newspaper article. He shows up in, there was like a funeral notice, and they're both, Chris and my ancestor were pallbearers in a funeral. Then he shows up in some land deed records, and I'm like, who is this guy? He's not a family member. So what I did was I went and created a profile for him on Ancestry and used him as a floating tree. There's a ton of episodes on the Genealogy TV channel if you're not familiar with what a floating tree is, but in short is when you connect someone and disconnect them really quick so that you have them floating by themselves, and then you can let the algorithms at Ancestry do the work for you and research them a little bit. Well, it turns out that this guy, Chris Tiegner, was in the Brotherhood, the Danish Brotherhood. And so what I did was I made a little comment. The comments are public. The notes are private, just as a reminder on Ancestry. And so I made this comment just to remind myself. Well, then I took it one step further. When I was doing the research, I went and I created a tag that says, this is one of the fan club members, friends, associates, and neighbors, turns out to be a friend. And I made a tag, and when you click on that little pencil icon, you can get to those tree tags that we talked about. And then I also created a web link. So this is a custom tree tag. So I created my own, and I basically said, see web links. This was a note for me, really, not necessarily for anybody else. But if somebody was researching Chris Tiegner, then they might find him in my tree, and then they start to see these tags and they go, oh, wait a minute, there was a relationship here. Oh, wait a minute, he was in the Danish Brotherhood. Oh, maybe he's from Denmark. You get the idea. There's a lot of reasons for doing this. And so at the bottom of the source column, you can add web links. And so here is the source column. You hit add, and you can click on web link. And from there, you can add these web links back and forth if you're going to do the web link thing. I am now doing both. I'm actually also adding a tree tag that says, floater. And so Chris Tiegner is a floater. That way I can sort from the tree view just the tags that have floater in it. And that way I can get all the floaters. Make sure you do something, either web links or a tree tag that says floater, before you close out, because you may forget who you have floating, and they're really hard to find if you don't do something to link back and forth. Okay, number 8 is thinking that Throughlinez is your tree. I'm sorry. I hate to tell you this, but it's not your tree. It is a blend of your tree, other trees, and DNA matches. Okay, so yeah, I'm looking at some of the comments. People are saying, yeah, people move around. So true. Now, Throughlinez is a hint feature. And so if you can wrap your head around that, as it is a hint feature, it is not your tree, and use it just like if you were going to the hints section from the profile and you were going, I'm looking for a marriage record, and you drill into marriage record, you get a long list of possible marriage records, right? There's probably only 1 or 2 of them that might be your person. Though, just think of it the same way. This tree that you see here, while it looks like your tree, it's not your tree, it's a blend. And one of the reasons why I'm pointing this out, yes, all of the solid boxes are people that you have in your tree. Let me pull this up full so you can see it. But the reality is that not everybody that is in your tree is going to be in Throughlinez. Not all of the children, like for example, Elizabeth Davis here, not all of her children are listed here. Why is that? It is because that the only thing that's going to show in Throughlinez are the people that have descendants who have DNA tested, who also have the same common ancestor that you do in their trees. So let's pretend for a moment that Elizabeth here has 12 children, but only 5 are showing up in Throughlinez. This totally makes sense because there are DNA matches underneath those 5, but maybe the rest of the children, there could be 7 other children that didn't have or currently do not have any descendants that are documented in Ancestry that have the same common ancestor, so they're not going to show up at all. There may be some DNA descendants from some of the other kids, but if the whole through line is not built out in their trees, it's not going to show in your Throughlinez view. So I respectfully request that you don't get upset about this. A lot of people get really upset that Throughlinez is wrong. How can I fix it? Don't bother. Don't try. It's just a hint feature. And so for those who are not familiar with Throughlinez, you have to have taken a DNA test. And then so these DNA cousins would be popping up in what is a potential view of your descendants from your common ancestor that you have in common with these other DNA matches. And so these dashed lines here means that this person is not in the tree. All right, number 9 is not using the card catalog as part of your research process. And I think for the most part, people, once they learn how to use the card catalog, I use it exclusively. I very, very rarely just use that search button. I very rarely use the search button from the Ancestor profile. But if you go to search and you drop down to card catalog, you will get everything Ancestry offers. This is beyond the hints. This is beyond that search box from the profile, because what's going to happen if you just click that search box from the profile? What's going to happen is you're going to get everything without it being filtered. And it's a lot of minutia to go through, and you'll have pages and pages of stuff. No, remember, we're focused on that research question. We're thinking we need to find some burial information, right? So that's what we need to focus on. So what you do is you use the search box over here on the right hand side, and I say use the location first and then the time frame, which is kind of off the screen at the bottom here, but drill into the time period. And usually I go to the century. So if I'm looking for something in the 1800s as opposed to like getting specific to 1810, I might go to 1800s first. So sometimes we want to start broad and then work down. But by drilling into the location, let's say we're doing some research in New Jersey or something, and we go into USA, then New Jersey. The reason why I harp on this a lot is because then we can get into the birth, marriage, and death area in order to find that burial information and see what records are available. Because a lot of times when you go do just a broad search from, search on any platform, quite frankly, if you go do a broad search and you go, show me everything, but you're really in mind, you're trying to think, I need a burial record. The problem with that is that when you do that, you're too much to go through, first of all. But what if they don't have the records? And you're getting frustrated that you're not finding what you're looking for. By drilling into the card catalog down to the location, the time frame, and the record type, now you're going to get a view of what they have. And don't forget to sort by record count. This brings all of the highest level, the records with the most amount of records in them, increases your odds of finding what you're looking for. Okay? All right. We're going to go on to number 10. But before we do, I've got a bunch of bonus tips after this, so stick around. So one of the things that I talk about a lot, and if you have watched me before, you know I'm big on research notes. And the reason why is because when you are doing proper research notes and you follow this kind of process that I talk about a lot, then you won't miss any records. You will have abstracted everything into your research notes. It helps keep you focused. You have sources for everything, right? So here, let's just take a look. All right, so you want to put everything in chronological order. This becomes the timeline. People talk about creating a timeline all the time. This is a proven strategy for genealogy for years and years. So yeah. Information found. Now, I only put information found in my research notes. I do not keep a long list of what I didn't find. Some people, now professionals will have to do this as part of their research process because they have to document what they have done and what they haven't done, when they're writing their reports for their clients. And so a lot of times they will write, I looked here, I looked here, I looked here, I looked here, I looked here. They keep this research log going. I don't do that. It's very time consuming. I write down what I found, and occasionally, if I'm looking for that burial record and I'm just not finding it, I might put some asterisks in there. I might go asterisk, asterisk. I have done reasonably exhaustive research for burial records, and I'll put it down toward the death area in my research notes. And if I'm not finding it, I may make a note about it. But the reason why I don't put what I didn't find or all of the places that I have looked is because records are being added to the platforms every day. Millions of records are being added every day to all of the platforms. And so it might be that I missed something, or that if I write it down, I think I'm never going back to look in that record set again because, and especially now with handwriting recognition that's coming in, more indexing is happening automatically. Things are coming along. So those records may come along. I just find it too time consuming to put what I didn't find. So only stuff that I have found, and it's abstracted. Sources for everything. Please make sure that you are, I don't care how you write your source citations, whether it's, you know, who, what, where, when, why, and it's like not formatted in any format or anything, but some sort of breadcrumb trail that somebody could follow and get back to that record again. That's highly important. And so, you know, 5 years later, when you go back to look at your notes, you'll thank me for this, because you'll go, oh, where did I find that record? Oh, there it is. It's in the source citations. And you'll be able to go look at that record again, because sometimes new information comes to light and you need to go back and look at those records again. Your contact information in the footer. Now, I have cut off the bottom here for privacy reasons, but on the bottom of all my information, I have a header, which basically here just says research notes for Charles Booth and his lifespan. But I also put my contact information in the bottom. I do not share my research notes online. It's not that I'm stingy. It's that because these notes are constantly being updated all the time. Every time I touch them, I'm updating something. And I don't want research notes to be put online as a story or a document, because it's a living, breathing document. It's constantly evolving. And I was chatting with somebody earlier in the chat that they were saying they were using LifeStory for, and that's on Ancestry's left-hand tab in the profile view. They were using LifeStory for their research notes, and that's great. If that works for you, that works for you. Personally, I like doing it in Word, because I can put footer citations and my little notes and hyperlinks and whatever rocks my world, right? Then you want to make sure you file it properly. So to me, I've got lots of videos on how to do filing properly, but I put everything in surname folders, and then within the surname folders, I have surname, first name, and those folders contain all of the ancestors. And so that's where these are kept. I usually put a 1 in front of my research notes, because your research notes are the most important document in your files. Worth repeating. Your research notes are the most important document in your files. Why? Because it has everything. It has everything about your ancestor. And quite frankly, it could be a chapter in your book that you've been wanting to write. So by having all of that in there, in that document, and putting a 1 in front of it, it rises it to the top of your list of documents in your ancestors folder. Okay. Let me show you a couple little things about this. I'm going to open up a pen here so I can grab a box. So this is a research note from, well, let's try and erase all the little dots here. This is a couple things I want to point out. Here I have put at the top of this person's, this ancestor's research notes, I put the ID for Wikitree and for Family Search. That way, if I want to go to these people on either platform and look and see, do some more research over there, see if somebody's added something, I can go right to it with those IDs. And then the next thing you want to take a look at is each paragraph, right? So here's one paragraph, is a record. This is the information that I transcribed into, I did a transcription, then I abstracted the information, removing all the boilerplate stuff. I abstracted the juicy goodness out of that record, and I put it into my research notes in chronological order. So I usually start with the date. Always start with the date. That way you can see the chronology. That way, if you're thinking to yourself, well, where is this person between this date and that date? You can jump right to it in your research notes and go, well, he was last known to be here, and then 10 years later, he was known to be here. So let's see if we can find some records in between there. And so, yeah, that's the whole point of trying to keep stuff in in chronological order. Okay. All right. Now, some bonus tips for you. Vary your sources. Get outside the Ancestry box or the Family Search box or the MyHeritage box, whatever box you're in. And if that's the only place you're researching, let's think outside the box, to use an old school term. Okay? So think about going to the state archives, to the local library, to the other platforms might have something different. It just kind of depends. All the platforms are going to have the U.S. Census records, so you don't need to go looking for that elsewhere. But if you go to the archives, there might be some tax records there that are not digitized yet. So be thinking about that. Evaluate your sources, right? You want to weigh the evidence. You want to correlate that evidence. Basically, what that means is you're taking the data. So if you're trying to figure out someone's birth date and you got 4 different sources, 2 of them agree and 2 of them don't agree, then you kind of have to weigh that evidence and decide which one. That's, again, a whole other lesson on how to do correlation of evidence. But then you want to compare that data, you want to come to a conclusion, and you want to write your conclusion. You want to focus your research, so you stop raking the leaves, you focus on one person at a time, and really that cluster, that husband, wife, children, and your direct line ancestors, siblings. Organize your research. Just start with one. That's all I challenge you. And if you like the challenge, then you think you want to take it on, then put it in the chat, say challenge accepted, and hopefully you start with one ancestor at a time, pull those records, transcribe those records. That's basically word for word, everything that's in it, boilerplate and all, because when you do, you will notice details you never saw before. Then you're going to abstract that information and put it into your research notes in chronological order. Of course, you're going to keep those research notes and all of that abstracted information. And don't forget to source everything. You want to make sure you have your sources in your research notes. Make sure you're reaching out. Reach out to family members, especially your eldest family members, and talk to family. Get a hold of groups on social media. Like if you're trying to do Italian research, for example, and you want to... you don't know anything about it, you're like, oh, I'm lost. Get on some of these social media groups and join the group and see if you can start asking questions. People are always willing to help. It's a very friendly group. Oh, I love it. I'm seeing all these challenge accepted. I love it, love it, love it, love it. Yes. Good job, you guys. Very good. I'm seeing lots of them. Lots of challenge accepted. Beautiful. I hope I didn't miss anybody, but got it. I think I got a lot of them anyway. Okay, so that, make sure that you're reaching out. You're reaching out in any way you can. And of course, you want to, keep learning and watch YouTube, of course, because, YouTube's fun and it's free and it's easy. And, well, we like YouTube. I watch probably more YouTube than anything else. And if you really want to keep learning and dig in deep, you can join the Genealogy TV Academy. This is not meant to be a big, long sales pitch, so I won't. But there are links in the show notes if you want to join the Academy. That is also an option. So long story short, I'm saying you've got this. You can do this. I encourage you to do this. Take the challenge and start keeping research notes. Follow that whole process. I gave you the whole thing. This is what the professionals do. We study a lot, but the reality is I gave you all the top secrets right there. And so hopefully you are willing and ready to dig in. So with that, I am done with the presentation. I'm going to take a look at chat now because I have kind of been ignoring it because I was so busy presenting. So I'm going to jump over here and see what we've got going on. Oh my goodness. Thank you, Sherry. Joining the Academy has totally changed the way I research. Thank you so much. That's so sweet. I appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you, Melissa, for the comment. I appreciate that. Amy, you're asking if there is a printout. There is not a handout for this. But you know what? This is on the YouTube channel, so you can come back and watch it as many times as you'd like. It's really not that hard. There's a lot of thank yous going on here. I see some more people saying challenge accepted. Good job. I appreciate it. And if anybody has any questions, I will stick around for a few minutes and see if, let's see what Gerald says. If a document is in a foreign language, pay an expert to transcribe and translate it. That is actually good advice. Yes. And you know, there are some translation apps out there, and a lot of the websites these days have translation right in them. Google Translate's a good one. You can even get an app where you can hold your phone up to the screen and it will translate while you are looking at it. But if you really want to get to the nitty-gritty of what's in a document, then I agree. You might want to get it translated professionally. Challenge accepted. Thanks for the presentation. I appreciate it. Thank you, thank you. I'm getting lots of nice comments. Thank you. I'm looking to see if there are any questions in here. Let's see. Will do what I can do to keep learning. Lots of fun and not fall down the rabbit hole. Yes, I totally agree. Let's see, what do we say? You made me want to get back to my research with new confidence. You can do this. It's not hard. It's just being methodical, getting organized, one person at a time, keep research notes. You can do this, I promise. It looks like we have a suggestion that Microsoft Word has a translation tool in Word itself. So thank you for the tip. I appreciate that. Let's see. All right. Well, with that, here's what we're going to do. We're going to say goodbye, and I appreciate it. You guys rock. Don't forget to subscribe, please. I am trying to get my subscriptions up. And with that, we will say goodbye and end the stream. So you guys have fun researching. That's what it's all about, right? All right. We'll talk to you later.